I studied politics, philosophy and economics.
Oh, yeah.
I did PPE
Where did you do that?
at Oxford.
Okay.
I've been a lifelong market researcher and business consultant for very nearly 40 years. Pragma Consulting was founded in 1988 by myself and my business partner Roy Palmer, and we had previously met at another consultancy that was an offshoot of an American consultancy that specialised in retailing. At that time, in the 80s, there wasn't really any business in the UK that specialised in retail. We had a lot of brand experience and we had a lot of commercial experience and research and marketing experience.
Okay.
And we felt that we could offer that to the UK market. We sat down with nothing except a telephone and a list of numbers, and we started making calls. And because we had both, shall we say, been around a bit, we did have quite a large number of contacts and people that we could approach. And we did take advice from quite a few people, and interestingly enough, we got a lot of contradictory advice. So I would say that if what you want to set up in business, you should take some advice, but don't necessarily take it all, because everybody has a different perspective, and what might have been right for them might not be right for you. Networking and contacting people and keeping an address book and keeping in touch with people is absolutely vital, certainly to any entrepreneurial business, but also I would say, you know, for personal development as well. Because any kind of business, any kind of career, there is some selling element to it. And selling is, you know, either communicating yourself or the organisation that you represent. I set up with a partner. And I think it's absolutely essential that that partner should be, you know, we always called it like a buddy system. And what is really important is that that person is someone that you agree with on a lot of things, both business-wise and probably outside of business-wise as well. Every kind of business, whatever it is, needs, you know, at least 3 skills. First skill is to do with creativity. You know, what is the product? What is the essence of the service that you're actually offering? What's the kind of special magic about it? So someone has to create that. The second thing is customers. It's 3 C's, by the way. Creativity, customers. And the customers are, you've got to understand your customers, but the most important thing is you've got to sell to the customers. You know, there's no use having a business if you can't sell something, and you've got to sell something. And then that brings me to the 3rd C, which I call counting. It really means accounting. You've got to collect the money. You've got to make sure people pay you. You've got to make sure they pay the appropriate amount to sustain the business that you're in. And you need to make sure that, you know, your books are in order. When you're in a large company, particularly a very large, benevolent and paternalistic type of company, you are, you know, you're in a huge, wonderful kind of cocoon comfort blanket. Everything is there for you. You know, if you've got a grievance, there's a process. If you want to, you know, to change your employment, there's a process. When you're working for yourself, there's no comfort blanket anymore. And every time you skive off or have that extra kind of coffee break or go home early, it's only yourself you're hurting. So that is the kind of mindset that you have to think. Obviously, you're not going to work 24/7, but you have to manage your time much better. No one else is managing your time or directing you or giving you sort of career appraisals. You have to be your own manager and your own career appraiser. When you get into, you know, a slightly more senior and managerial position, which can come quite quickly after a year or so, you're going to have people to work with. Delegation, knowing how to delegate, is the absolute best way of reducing stress on yourself. And knowing how to delegate is not just about saying, "Ooh, you do this." In fact, a lot of big mistakes can happen in companies by people just dumping work on other people and saying, just do this. I've written down prioritization. And we always had a mantra in Pragma, or rather it was my mantra, which was first things first, second things never.
Okay.
And first things first means there's always going to be something that needs to be done now. Don't waste your time on other things which might be secondary, you know, which sort of persuade you to procrastinate and not get on with the things that actually need doing now. Planning. And the one thing I retained from the small job I had with the American consultancy as the chief executive there had a mantra which was the 6 Ps, which is proper planning prevents piss poor performance.
I like it.
I think, you know, sometimes if things get really, really, really bad, you just have to say, well, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
And, you know, usually you can live with the worst.